I want to thank everyone for coming in this evening and taking some time to be with us. Hope you're enjoying the evening here. There have been some changes in the Social Security rules about how you can claim benefits and so forth. They're coming into play very quickly, and we wanted to share that information with you, along with some general concepts about retirement and some of the things you'll be dealing with. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing is just the idea that retirement is a little bit more than just the financial aspect of it. When you're planning for retirement, you really want to be thinking about you're spiritually ready to do it, emotionally ready to do this, physically, mentally. Give you an example, physically, there's going to be a lot more time on your hand. And some people retire in their 60s, they want to travel a lot, they want to go to different places, go hiking and so forth. To be quite blunt, get in shape. Get in shape, get into the gym and get in shape so you can enjoy that time, so that you can go to a national park and go hiking on some of the trails and so forth. So think about those concepts besides just the money that's involved. Retirement obviously is a totally different lifestyle and a relaxed lifestyle, a different lifestyle, but it does require some things in your mind like keeping busy, not sitting around watching TV all day long. Inventory about that. We're going to kind of go through these pretty quickly. We do want to watch the time tonight, make sure we have some Q&A time for everyone. But there are some things, to-do list, so forth. For example, you probably want to make sure your mortgage, if it's not paid off, you're in good shape to handle it. The credit cards, the cars and so forth. The kids off to college, those loans are paid off. With your income going away from when you're in retirement, all of a sudden these expenses may seem to be a lot larger than they have been in the past. At the same time, you want to make sure that you've got adequate savings. You've been working with your funding, your retirement plan, your other savings. If you have a pension plan, you're going to be able to maximize that. So, and of course, from our perspective, but anyone's perspective, sit with a financial professional before you make that final decision. Have him or her work with you on looking out with developing a plan and so forth, looking out over projections, making sure that your retirement assets are going to be adequate to take care of the lifestyle that you would like to have. Because once you walk out that door and turn in that resignation slip, 6 months later you go, oops, we're kind of tight on money. It's going to be a little bit tougher to get back into that workforce. So plan all that out with a professional before you make that decision. As you well know, and we're going to address Social Security right now, or some other parts of retirement, Social Security and so forth is only one piece of a puzzle. There's investments and so forth, like 401ks, there's savings. Pensions are not as prominent anymore in the private sector. I did a little research on this recently, and it's something like only 15% of workers, non-government workers, are covered by a pension plan, and it only involves about 10% of the companies out there now, which are the larger companies. A lot of companies, because of the cost and the liability, are phasing pensions out. So we're going to be relying more and more on the actual Social Security and the investments that we put away primarily through 401k type plans and so forth. Yeah. Before we actually get into the aspects of Social Security, I want to address some important parts about income planning, actually distribution planning and retirement. Let's go through a few examples. And what we're going to look at here is accumulating money over a 20-year period of time. And here we are. This is actually 1955 through 1974. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off with $132,637. There's a reason we start with that number, because over that time period, the average annual rate of return in this is a S&P 500, was 8.27% a year. So what we're trying to show you is if you invested $132,000 X dollars and got these kinds of returns, and you see some up and down years in here, in 20 years you end up with $500,000. Here's another 20-year scenario. The return order is different, but again, we start off with the same amount of money and we end up with $500,000 because we get this 8.27%. Remember though, the return sequence is different, and let's see what happens now. In the first scenario, what we're going to do here is we're going to take that $500,000 we've accumulated over that 20-year period of time, and we're going to draw 6% out of it a year, so we're going to take $30,000, and we're going to give ourselves a pay raise every year, 3% pay raise to accommodate inflation. So we want to keep our purchasing power constant. So we take out $30,000 and $30,000 and so forth. We give ourselves a pay raise for every year for 3%, and after 20 years, we end up with $725,000, almost $600, and in the last year we've taken out over $52,000. This is easy. We're done. We don't have to worry about this, right? Well, let's go back. This is that second scenario, which is still 8.27% compound rate of return. We still start off with $500,000. We take 30 out a year, and we give ourselves a 3% pay raise every year. And in year 14, we go broke. What happened? We got the same rate of return over 20 years, 8.27%. The difference is the sequence. Other than right here in the third year, you have some pretty good years getting started, and your hiccups don't come up until later. In the other scenario, you have some bad years in the beginning of the year, the first part, and you get into the hole. I will tell you now, actually, these two scenarios are the same. We totally flipped the sequence of returns to show that while if you're not making distributions, it doesn't matter. You get 8.27% compound rate of return. But if you are taking distributions, it does matter, because nobody wants to do this. And let's use a real example. This is the last 15 years. We're going to start it in the year 2000. We do have 500,000 accumulated. And we're going to be a little more conservative. We're only going to take out 5% a year. Now, we're still going to give ourselves that 3% pay raise. So if you retired in the year 2000 and you invested in the S&P 500 and you take $25,000 a year out and you give yourself a 3% pay raise, this is real money, real time. Last year you ran out of money, or it's actually 2014. I forget, we're in 2016 now. You ran out of money last year in 2014. So the sequence makes a difference, because what happens in 2000, you walk into a buzzsaw. It's been a long time since we'd had 3 down years in a row. And I remember I was at the time in the business after 2001. We were told the stock market hasn't had 3 down years in a row since the 1930s. Well, guess what? It did it again. Don't tell me it can't happen. It happened. So how do we manage that? Time segmented distribution planning. I call it the bucket strategy, and you'll see why in a moment. What we can do is we can take your assets and we can segment them into 5-year buckets. I'm not going to go into the details. There's a whole software planning, but the point is we're going to take the very first one, like the 1 to 5 years, and we're going to put it in a no-risk asset, like short-term bonds, CDs, a fixed-rate annuity, so forth, something that has absolutely no market risk at all. And we're going to live off that the first 5 years. And as we go further out in time, we'll increase the risk a little bit. In years 6 to 10, we may be in short intermediate term bonds. And then after that, we start getting into growth type investments into 10 to 15 to 20 year time buckets, because that allows you to go through a market cycle with these assets and not have to worry about spending that money down. And of course, obviously, there has to be more money in these segments to live off of, and less money because you have time here. And that's what the software program does. Just conceptually understand that you can take out market risk by using this bucket strategy and allow further asset time periods out here to allow your money to go through these market cycles and grow over time so that you don't run out of money. It's a very important concept that we're developing. It's been tested against other strategies, and it's the most effective strategy we have found for making sure that your assets will live as long as you live. Social Security. Let's talk about some numbers of Social Security real quick. Full retirement age. Full retirement age is when you get your targeted maximum benefit, and that has been changing over the years. If you were born in 1937 or earlier, like my dad was, his full retirement age was 65. If you're born between 1943 and 1954, which is the area I'm in, your full retirement age is 66. In 1960 or later, it's 67. And you can see this in between, this like 65 and 2 months or 66 and 4 months. Keep this in mind. Full retirement age is the way a lot of calculations for benefits are done. Okay. There we go. Sorry for that. So what does that mean? Let's say full retirement age is 66. If your full retirement age benefit would be $1,333 a month, which is just under $16,000 a year. If you decide to retire early at 62, it's discounted by about a third. You'd only get $1,000 a month. But a lot of people don't realize if you defer your benefit, it keeps growing 8% a year until age 70, where it maxes out. So if you don't start drawing at 66 and you wait as long as to age 70, it would be $1,760 a month. It's a pretty substantial increase, which is over $21,000 a year in this case. So full retirement age is 66, you get an 8% a year deferral growth to age 70, but you get a 33% haircut at 62, and there's no in between here. 62 to 66, 33% discount. In terms of early retirement, there's an earnings test. In other words, if you hit age 62 and you decide, oh, I'd like to get some of that money I've been paying all these years, but I'm going to keep working. Well, the Social Security Administration is going to look at how much income you're earning from your current position. If you earn over $15,720 a year, for every $2 you make over that, you're going to lose $1 in Social Security benefits. And the way it works out, and this is going to come into play, $41,880 is the threshold. If you exceed that, you get 0. So if you have a decent paying position, it probably doesn't make sense to start collecting at age 62 or before full retirement age if you plan on continuing to work, because you're going to lose most of your benefit. There is some recovery in your later years, and there's a formula for that. But the reality is, if you have any kind of a decent position, you're not going to take early retirement with Social Security. Now, there's another one, a little bit of an interesting one. Social Security defines full retirement age as the year you reach that age. So, for example, I'm a July birthday. So when I reach 66, the January 1 of that year, I'm reached full retirement age. However, if I am still working in January, and February, March, and so forth, there's another little rule that comes into play in that year. So if I earn over $41,880 before I actually reach my birthday, I believe it works, then I'm going to lose $1 for every $3 over that. So it's a little known nuance. If you reach full retirement age, look at your position, look at your work, and you're probably going to actually need to, if you're still working, wait till you reach your birth month. So if you're a November baby, for example, you're probably going to work the rest of that year if you have some kind of income over here. This is a little area that's not that well known. Once you reach full retirement age, you can make $1 billion a year, which, by the way, is a lot of money, but you can make $1 billion a year and you won't lose anything. The real thing that most people are not aware of is what happens when they reach full retirement age, and what's the definition of that. It's the year you turn, in my case 66, January 1, I'm at full retirement age. However, if I'm working, I do have this income test. And then the question we often get is Social Security income taxable? Well, to sound like most government officials, it depends, actually. And it depends on how much other income you have. So what they've done is they take all of your other income that you may be entitled to, investment income, tax-free bonds, anything, all other sources of income, plus 1/2 of your Social Security benefit. They add that all up and they apply this table here. So if you're filing a joint return, and I won't go through the whole thing, but if your total income, including half your Social Security, is less than $32,000 a year, it's not taxable. On a joint return, if you add all those numbers up, that half Social Security, all the other sources of income, and it's between $32,000 and $44,000 a year, half your total Social Security benefit is taxable, and over that amount, it's 85%. And there's a single table of 25, 34, and in between. So it does depend on how much other sources of income you have as to what part of your Social Security income is taxable. It's never 100%, but part of it can be taxable income when you file your tax return. Get this question, can I pay it back? There were some rules at one time that if I paid it back and filed and all this, that's all changed now. This is a very simple rule. You have 12 months from the time you start collecting Social Security benefits to pay it all back if you want. This really applies primarily if you've taken it early, you decide, oh gosh, I shouldn't have done that, I want a higher income down the road. You better make that election within 12 months of when you first started drawing benefits. You have to repay the entire amount you have withdrawn from them, and you reset the clock. That's it, very simple, 12-month rule. Now, should you retire, or should you take early retirement benefits or defer your benefits? Let's say you're not working anymore. And let's go through an example. We're going to look at Mary. She's 62 years old. At 66 is her full retirement age. At full retirement age, she can get $1,400 a month. Now, at 62, she says, I don't want to do this anymore. I want my money now. Her discounts, she's going to lose $350 a month, so she'll only be collecting $1,050 a month. Does it make sense for her to do that? How long does she have to live to make that work out for her? Well, it's really simple, actually. We're going to take that $350 a month discount that she lost, 48 months of that, she's $50,400 that she's actually, how much she's collected, and we're going to divide it by 350. Anyway, works out to 144 months, 12 years. Simple point is, if Mary lives to be 78 years old, she would have been better off waiting to full retirement age. If she dies before age 78, then she made the right decision to get out early. Okay? Another example is, since you can continue to accumulate benefit value by waiting to age 70, we're going to look at Paul, who's 66 now. His full retirement age is also $1,400 a month. Now, if he waits till age 70, he'll get an extra $420 a month, which is $1,820 a month. So that extra benefit is, while waiting, he would have gotten $67,200 over that period. So we say, well, that was 160 months. We divide that. That's gives us 13.3 years. So actually, it works out to Paul. If Paul lives to be beyond 83, it made sense for him to wait till age 70. If he dies before that, he should take his money as soon as he can. All right. We'll have time for Q&A on this later. Okay. So we just want to get through it now. Then there's survivor benefits. Okay, this is paid to a survivor of a spouse. So the living spouse, and a lot of people get confused on this. For example, a widower or widower is entitled to 100% of the benefit the primary spouse was getting. Now, you don't get to keep both. I've seen that situation. Oftentimes, it's the husband who has the higher benefit, and the wife has a secondary benefit. When he passes on, the wife is entitled to get half of the full benefit he was getting. Now, she gives up hers. And it could be vice versa. You do have situations where the wife is a higher earner. But whoever's the higher earner, that survivor can continue to get 100% of his or her benefit. This is where you have to start thinking about early retirement claims also, because if you start collecting at age 62 and you pass away a year later, your surviving spouse is going to get that reduced benefit for the rest of their life. Okay, and remember, you're going to probably lose two incomes at that point. I've seen that happen before. Where they say, "Oh, I want to get out early," and then, "Well, I lost my Social Security, and now I want to get half of it." His was so much less. And these are important issues to remember. You get 100% of the survivors. The deceased person, but whatever they decided to start taking is going to impact the survivor. Excuse me. Okay, married and widowed. Let's talk about married. Okay, if you get remarried and you're receiving benefits on your worker, you get to keep doing that. You're not going to lose your benefits because you get remarried. Okay? If you're receiving spousal benefits from your ex-spouse's record, you will lose that. Okay, you get on the new spouse or you get on your own. But you may be able to get on that new person. So you don't lose yours, you could lose spousal benefits, and you may have to get onto the new spouse. Widower is a little different deal. If you're under age 60, remarriage generally forfeits benefits you got as a survivor. If you remarry after age 60, they stay intact. Unless you want to get on a new guy. If it's a woman, get on a new guy's deal. Maybe add more money. If he croaks, excuse me, that's a terrible thing to say. If he passes on in 10 years, I'm sorry about that. If he passes off within 10 years of you getting married to him, you have the option to go back to the first one if you want to. It just depends on what it is. Now, you make it more than 10 years, then you're going to be on his benefits. So, and if you're yes, right, 10 years. In the marriage, it actually doesn't matter where he dies. The marriage ends. If the marriage ends in less than 10 years, you have the option to get back on the first spouse's benefits. Now, we just talked about spousal benefits in relationship to remarried, widows, and so forth. What are spousal benefits? Spousal benefits were designed to provide some income. Originally, most of the time, the wife stayed at home in the early, back in the 50s and 60s, so they wouldn't have a work record to claim benefits on. So when the primary spouse reached full retirement age, the other spouse could collect 1/2 of the primary benefits. And we were talking about just now how that's an impact when one person dies. That Social Security payment goes away, and then the surviving spouse has some options whether to continue to collect on themselves or to collect a survivor benefit. But the original spousal benefit is 1/2 of the primary spouse's benefit once the primary reaches full retirement age. A quick example. My mom left the workforce when I was born. I'm the oldest of 3. My dad's full retirement age was 65. He returned 65 in June of, I forget what year it is now. He's been around a while. And so my mom's younger than him. Once my dad was able to start claiming Social Security benefits, my mom was able to claim 1/2 as a spousal benefit at that point in time. So that's what spousal benefits are. So it's very important because it does help to get some income when you don't have work credits in a married household. Okay. This is where we talked about ex-spouse benefits. A lot of people don't realize a divorced person may be able to claim on their former spouse's benefits. And oftentimes this happens when there's a big income disparity. So if you're divorced, and unfortunately a lot of times this applies to women, but if you're divorced and your marriage lasted at least 10 years or longer, you can get benefits on the ex-spouse. And they don't even know about it, by the way. You don't have to get their permission. They'll never know about it. It's just a fact on what you're eligible for. Now, the rules are you have to be unmarried, you have to be at least 62 or older, and your ex-spouse has to be entitled to Social Security benefits. Those are the rules on that. And the benefit you would get on your own has to be less than what the spousal benefit would be. So if your former spouse was entitled to, say, $2,000 a month, that spousal benefit would be $1,000, and let's say you were only going to get $700 a month on your own because you had a low work record history, yeah, you would be eligible to collect that if you're over 62. Now, remember, there are some of the early discount rules are going to apply. I ran into this situation too. I had a client call me up and she says, well, I worked with both of y'all. My ex-spouse made a bunch of money. I'm 62 years old. I want to. Yeah, I said, and you're still working, and you're going to make over, at that time, $14,000 a year. No, you're going to have to wait till you're 66, okay? And if the ex-spouse, okay, if the ex-spouse has not applied for benefits but is eligible for, you can still get them if the divorce has been over 2 years. So just keep that in mind. If they haven't claimed it, but they're of a retirement age where they could claim it, you have to have been divorced at least 2 years. Okay. And to get the full retirement amount, obviously, then your ex-spouse had to be eligible to get the full retirement amount also. A couple of rules. This is where the real changes are coming into play, and this is what we really wanted to bring to everyone's attention. There's 2 rules that are getting ready to change that were a really nice benefit to couples if they planned this strategy correctly. One of them was called file and suspend. The old rule, which is going to end on April 30th of this year, of 2016, the old rule was one of them reaches full retirement age. Bear with me, I'm old school. We're going to say it's the husband. He reaches full retirement age. He files for his benefit and suspends it because he wants to let it accumulate to age 70, and then he gets a spousal benefit off his wife's earnings. So you could kind of double dip in that respect. Get some income coming in now as a spousal benefit, let that primary one continue to grow to age 70 where it would maximize. That goes away after April 30th of 2016. At that point, suspending benefits for the primary spouse suspends benefits for everyone. So in effect, they've done away with it. You can say, yeah, you can still file and suspend your benefit if you want to continue to collect age 70, and it's really pointless to do that. You just don't have to do anything, actually. You just wait till you're age 70. But you won't be able to, after April 30th, to utilize that provision. So that window's narrowing for people that are eligible to do that are in that window of full retirement age now. Oh, and one thing I want to point out too, at one time, if you deferred collecting benefits, say to age 68, 69, and let's say something happened to you, got a very serious health issue that could be terminal, you could go to the IRS, we'll deal with them, Social Security Administration, and say, I'd like to get paid for all the money I deferred. And they would give you a lump sum payment for, say, those 3 years in that case. That's going away. That doesn't happen anymore. They'll just say, no, what we'll do is if you want to start collecting benefits, you collect the benefits you'd be entitled to at age 69. Using that as an example. Another one that's changing is called the restricted benefit. The old rule was anyone born before January 1 of 1954, and I'm there. So you could have a situation where the husband or wife could file for a spousal benefit and defer their own benefit. In other words, again, allowing that benefit to grow. It's a similar form of what we were talking about, but a little bit different. Allow that benefit to continue. Grab that spousal benefit now. If you're born on or after January 1st of 1954, this doesn't work anymore. So there's only a few people left. That window's closing down because this is basically anyone that's 62 or younger is going to be blocked out of that, and so there's only a few people that, over 60. Anyone over 62 that hasn't claimed may be able to do that. But this rule goes away April 30th this year, 2016. This rule goes away, and for people who were born on or after January 1st of 1954. One last thing we want to talk about is long-term care is getting to be a real serious issue. We want to just share with you a tool that we have to kind of look through and see whether that's an issue you need to address. This is, I'm going to give you a summary real quick. I have a friend of mine about my age, done quite well, accumulated some assets, was concerned about the cost of long-term care and would it affect him. So we were able to take our tool, Finance Logics. He gave us an idea of what kind of income he'd like to have when he retired. And he says, I'm going to probably work till I'm 70 and maybe a little bit longer. So we ran that scenario, and then we also that he was going to retire at age 70 and the lifestyle he had. And we assumed that he was going to, let's see, life expectancy is 85, so we assumed, I think it's 78, that one of them would go into a facility at a cost of $5,000 a month. The real simple thing is the green bar is taller than the blue bar. That means that's not a problem for him. That's easy for him to do that. Then, first scenario is there is no retirement. So we took that same, nursing home. So we took that same scenario and said, yes, it's 78. This is the scenario here, I apologize, where they do incur nursing home expenses at age 78 to 85 to the tune of $60,000 a year. And he still is quite well off. This scenario, I went to him and said, suppose you had to get out at age 66 and you still want to maintain this lifestyle, and one of you goes into a facility at 78 years old to the tune of $5,000 a month. You're getting out 4 years earlier than you planned. There's a little bit of an issue in the last year or two. I'm not going to bring the details up, but it shows that we run into a shortfall. And it was interesting, his response was, if that happens, we get out at 66, and we're planning on a really nice life, I can dial that lifestyle down in a hurry. And the reality is, good and well, if one of us goes into a facility, then we're not going to be traveling and spend a lot of money on other things anyway. So we'll adjust our lifestyle. And it's not that much of a shortfall. This is a case where I think some proper planning, in this case, because he had been looking at doing some coverage, he was very interested in buying it, and I said, well, before we do that, do we need it? Do we even need to spend that kind of money on nursing home care, long-term care? And the answer is no, we do not. Not in this case. But I think it's very important when you're planning retirement. This is going to be a big issue for a lot of people. Healthcare costs are going to be a big issue. We're going to be addressing Medicare changes and costs, so forth, later this year. Just wanted to touch on this. Long-term care is a big issue. Really think about some scenarios. What happens, what if, and we can do that for you, what if. So that is the end of what we wanted to present tonight and share with you, and we will now open it up for questions.